This is Mr. Perez. It's great. It's great to be able to communicate with you once again. Based on Mr. Levin's inspiration, videos he's been putting out for you, and because of the current situation that we're not able to be in classroom anymore, we have decided to share a little bit of the chess commentary that we're going to put out so you could learn while you're out of the classroom as well. Uh, Today's video is going to be based on a game that I played on Wednesday and the battle of the middle schools that took place, where Bronx and 5 other success academies battled out in a bullet tournament that was really exciting and produced great games. The game I'm going to provide commentary is my very own game, but actually the reason why I'm presenting my very own game is not to gloat or do anything of that sort about it, but rather because it's based on an opening that a lot of our scholars in Success Academy are playing nowadays based on our recommendation. It's an opening that I used to play a lot, but I don't play anymore that much. But based on the inspiration that our scholars have given us, I began to utilize it a little bit more often. So our game of the day is going to be a game between myself and Fireboy Nathan. Fireboy Nathan. This game is based on the Sicilian Dragon variation. And it's very important because the particular variation we're going to go over today is a variation that we haven't discussed in chess club, we haven't discussed in electives, and we have not even discussed it with the travel team. It's based on a really more positional variation, which is called the classical dragon. Usually it's positional, but you're going to see that in this particular game, White kind of misplayed it a little bit, and it got into a more tactical approach, which usually Black is really happy to get into. Because if you play the Sicilian Dragon, you're out there for the tactics. You want to play tactical chess. And this game turned out into a tactical battle. So I'm going to go over the variations of the classical dragon so we could review them together as a group. And then I'm quickly going to browse over the game because White kind of misplayed the position and he quickly got into a disadvantage. Although at the end result, I was having a lot of lag. I got low on time, and my queen, I kind of had a mouse boo boo at the end. So, without further ado, let me present you the game so we could go over it together. The first moves I'll make pretty quickly because we have reviewed the first sequence of moves together in class, and that won't change. The first new move will be move 7, where White goes into the classical variation of the dragon. Okay? So the first move was e4. This is a king pawns opening. C5, knight f3, d6. This we've gone over in class. d4, which signals the open variation of the Sicilian. White is playing for an open Sicilian. Knight takes, knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4. White defends with knight c3, and then Black decides to go into the dragon. And I was playing Black, okay? So this is all these moves, we've seen them in chess club, we've seen them in electives, and the traveling team has some experience playing this variation so far. Okay, so White goes for bishop e3 in this position. Black doesn't devise from his plan. He keeps doing normal moves here. But right now, is the first new move that we haven't gone over. That's bishop e2. Bishop e2 in move 7, which is the move order we are in now, usually signals that white is going into the classical dragon. And the classical dragon is a little different from the Yugoslav attack or other formations we've gone over, because it usually leads to a more positional chess. It usually leads to more positional chess. But let's see, because we're going to go over the classical dragon, and then we're going to go over what happened in the game too, which is pretty instructive. Okay, so black didn't deviate from the plan. He castled, white castled, and now when black played knight c6, white played a move that's okay. It's played, but it's a little different from the really classical approach from the dragon. So white played f4 right now. And we're going to wait a little bit to go over that variation, because before entering the move that white played, I want to go over the classical variation. The classical variation, usually white plays in this move, knight b3. Knight b3, white is playing to push his pawn to f4 and then to f5. Okay? So that's the basic plan. But once knight goes to b3, he gives up this e6 square to black. So white goes black. Black brings his bishop out forward. It's kind of like when you're dancing salsa. You know, your partner goes back, you go forward. Okay? So white goes back, black goes forward in this position. And this is really the gist of the classical dragon variation. This is the key position here. This position you have to learn if you're going to play the Sicilian dragon. So like I told you, white's plan here is to get an f4 and f5 as soon as possible. Black's plan is to prevent that and trade his light square bishop in some shape, form, or fashion. Okay? So white usually goes for f4. And now the most popular move is queen c8. The idea behind that move is to target the g4 square. However, in this position, I recommend a really interesting sideline that I remember I used to play years ago. And the sideline I would recommend to you, chess club players, is knight a5. Knight a5 is not the most popular move, but it's a really interesting sideline. And it signals. Black says, you want to play f5? Go ahead, play f5. So what happens if white plays f5 in this position? Okay, white plays f5. The bishop gets to c4. It's being defended with the knight. And if the bishop takes, then the knight takes. And all of a sudden, we're attacking the bishop on e3 and the pawn on e2. And probably this bishop has to go back to c1. So that's not favorable for white. If white decides to remove the defender of the bishop by taking with his knight, then you just take the bishop on e2 first. When the queen takes the bishop, queen takes over here, and all of a sudden, you're getting a really typical dragon position. If white plays his rook to d1, you play your rook over here to c8, which is the typical plan of the position, and all of a sudden, the only good move that white has is bishop d4, and now you get into a little grind over here. If white plays any other move, boom! Remember the typical rook sacrifice on c3? That's what we're going for. Rook sacrifice on c3. You take his minor piece. You take his pawn on e4. You're taking his pawn on c3. And all of a sudden, black is having all the fun, and white is just defending his crumbled up position. Okay? So this is a really interesting sideline that I recommend in this particular position. Uh, I would also study the main line, which is Queen C8, but know that you don't have to go into the main line, that you have a really good sideline in this position. Okay? So let's go into the how the game went. Because the game was an interesting variation. I used to really think that F4, when I started playing, I used to think it was a mistake because of Queen B6. Wait, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't put the pieces where they were. Sorry. So let's see how the game went. And I retract myself. The game went F4 in this position. And like I told you, I used to think it was a mistake because of Queen B6. Queen B6 presents white with a lot of difficulties now. The main thing here is that this bishop over here, guess what? No one's defending the bishop. No one's defending the bishop. No one's defending B2. The knight may come and take over here on E4. And it's a really, really tough position to defend. There's only two moves that work in this position. But I'm going to show you the common mistakes also that white makes in this position because you are likely to see it in a scholastic tournament that you play. So there's a couple tries here. My opponent made knight F5, trying to defend his bishop, trying to exchange my dark square bishop, but he ran into trouble, and I'll go over the variation in a little bit. The other tries over here in this particular move sequence is Queen D2. A lot of people will play Queen D2 to protect the bishop. But Queen D2, what happens? Boom! All of a sudden, we're getting hit by the knight, which is taking a pawn for free. And if the knight takes back, because we're attacking the queen, here you have the nice sequence of just taking with the bishop on D4, taking over here, taking over here, taking back, taking here, and all of a sudden, you're up a pawn, you're attacking the bishop, and you're attacking the C1 pawn as well. Okay? So, this would be a variation that actually could happen in a real game. You have to be careful because this could happen. What happens if you take on C6 with the knight? If the knight takes on C6, you just take back. And if the knight takes on E4, you take back with the queen. You're up a pawn. You're up the pawn that you took on E4. So, Queen D2 loses a pawn immediately in this variation. Now, could you do another move in this situation? Knight F5 is the move my opponent tried, and it failed. If you move the knight out to take on C6, boom. You take the bishop on E3 with check, and then you take the knight on C6 and you win an extra piece. Okay? So this is a really good concrete variation of mistakes. The third move that they can make is knight F5, and we're going to go over it. So the only moves that work in this situation are Queen D3, protecting the bishop, and defending B2 indirectly. You're defending B2 indirectly because if black goes ahead and takes on B2, usually what happens in this position is that knight takes on C6, pawn takes on C6, rook B1, Queen has to move to its only square possible. And guess what? White has a nice trick. Knight d5. The queen is attacked, so it has to take or move out of the way. And after queen takes queen, we take on e7 with check. The king has to move, and we take back and we regain that pawn. So this variation is not recommended for black. Okay? However, there's a better line here. There's a much, much better line after queen d3 for black. So after queen d3, black has to be very careful. White is defending the bishop on e3, and if you allow him, I'll just take the knight on c6, and all of a sudden, I'll be okay in this position. There's one thing, however. The dragon is really tactical opening. So you have to go for the tactical shots here. Definitely tactical shots. Knight g4 is the move. Knight g4, and all of a sudden, you're attacking the bishop on a3. You're attacking this knight on d4. So white has to take. White has to take, or the second move that happens in this position commonly is knight d5. And we'll go over both of them because you have to learn both of them. So if the bishop takes on d4, the thing you have to learn is that you can't take back with the bishop. You can't take back with the bishop because your bishop will get trapped. So let's say you take back with the bishop. I take on c6 all of a sudden. You take back with the queen because the queen is under attack. All of a sudden I'm playing f5 and I don't like the position that bishop is in. Okay? So white takes on g4. You don't take back. Definitely don't take back that bishop. You have a better move. You have a better move here. And the move is bishop takes. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Check. Queen takes. And knight takes. And all of a sudden you're attacking this pawn over here. And believe it or not, the move that is played most in this position is bishop d1 to defend. And after bishop e3, you go into a regular middle game. And black is perfectly okay. Okay? So we went over this variation. The other move you have to know over here, going back, because I told you there was another move, is this move. And there's a little trick to this move that you have to learn. This is a must-know trick. You have to know this trick. If no, you can't play the dragon. Okay? In this particular move order, you have to take on d4. You have to take. And you could say, hey, what? He's taking my queen. What am I going to do? Okay, let him take the queen. You let him take the queen on b6. You take his bishop on e3 with check. After he moves out of the way, that's the second piece you took. You take a third piece. And you go into this middle game where you traded your queen for 3 minors. And the position is equal. And black gets actually some good play. So, this position is pretty okay. Okay? The last variation you have to know in this position, the only other move that works is knight a4. And usually if black wants a draw, he may play queen a5. They play here. They play back. They kind of dance around. Okay? They dance around in a circle and they repeat the moves. But after knight a4, if black wants to play the game and play for an advantage, he plays queen b4. Usually white plays c3. Black plays back. b4. Queen c7. And this signals that black wants to play into the middle game and play for an advantage in this position. Okay? Lastly, I don't want to extend this video too much because I don't want to get you bored. We're going to go over the move that my opponent made in the game because it's also a bad move. But you have to know the reputation for all this move. The move has good intentions. He defends his bishop. The bishop's attacking my queen. And my great dragon bishop is under attack now. He's attacking it. How am I going to get away with this? So, the one thing that's not being defended is this pawn over here. So I took in the game over here. And my opponent forgot that his knight was under attack and he played over here, which was a mistake because I just took. Okay? But there's a move that's you have to know here. There's a scary move here. Knight a4. Knight a4, you have to know this variation too. Because black is not out of the water still. Okay? Not out of the deep waters. You have to play queen a3 to get your queen out of the way. And after you play c3 to defend the knight and a4 with the queen, some people would go ahead, oh, this knight on f5, I could take it with my pawn. Okay, but it's not that easy, guys. It's not that easy at all. Because if you take this knight over here, guess what? Boom! From a winning position, from a better position, all of a sudden, your queen doesn't have a way to go. And this position, I believe white is doing much better. Okay? So you have to watch out for these little traps and pitfalls. White here, the best move that black could make is take over here, allow white to take the g7 bishop, and once you take the g7 bishop, don't take back. Don't take back because this knight is not going anywhere. It doesn't have any good squares on the board to escape. So you take on c3. You're attacking the knight twice. You're attacking the queen. He has to take. You take with the queen. And now guess what? You're attacking the bishop on e3. You're attacking the knight on g7. After he moves away his bishop, probably to f2 or d2, you take the knight. And guess what? How many pawns are you ahead? I think you're ahead 3 pawns. So you're cruising in the game. Okay? My opponent didn't play the more critical move like I said. He played rook b1. And I'm going to go really quickly over this because the video is kind of long already. I took the knight. I want a free piece. He tried to trap my queen. I said check on c5. He tried to attack my queen again. I played queen to a5. He took my bishop, my really good bishop, and then attacked my queen on a5. I said thank you for the pawn on a2. He played f5. I played a6, attacking his rook. He played rook b3. I said thank you for the pawn on e4. He played pawn takes pawn. I took back. And now he plays a tricky move, queen c1. The idea is that he wants to check me on h6. So I defended against that threat. He attacked my queen. I went back. He checked. I slowly began to bring my pieces over. I was sensing I was going to go for a checkmate here. He played h3, which kind of debilitated his king side a little bit. I attacked with my knight. He attacked my queen. I said, is that your plan? I pushed my pawn with f5. And then he made this move over here. I missed here. I missed knight f2, which would have won a second piece for me, because if he plays something like this to kind of take the knight, I take the bishop, and then I take the rook. So I missed out a little bit there. So he can't just take like this, because I defend everything. Okay? So I didn't play the more accurate move, but I still played a good move. I'm still winning in this position clearly. And I began taking, sensing a checkmate was near. But I must confess that in this part of the game, I was having a very big lag in my position. My internet was kind of slowing down. I kind of panicked. I think I had like 6, 7, 8 seconds on the clock. I picked up my queen. I wanted to move it to g4, and boom, it slipped. It boo-booed. So there, I actually lost this game. After having such a good game, I finally lost it. But the thing about this video is not showing you a win or a loss. The thing about this video is showing you how to correctly play against the classical dragon. I hope that this lesson has been useful. I hope you have learned something. I hope people that were motivated to play the dragon are even more motivated now. I hope that if you have any questions about this opening, you reach out to me, you email me, you could text me, contact me. You could become a dragon expert in the weeks that you're going to be out of school. We could go over a line every couple days, every week. We could review a new line in the dragon. Okay? So it's been a pleasure. It's my first video. Pardon me, you know. It always takes a little time getting adjusted. I hope everyone keeps safe. I hope everyone is doing well. And I'll see you in next time in our next